Welcome to a short intro video about our course. We'll just walk through parts of the syllabus. Hopefully at this point we've already covered the first few sections in class, and if for whatever reason we ran out of time, we'll get to that eventually. So I'm going to start with Section 5. Section 5 talks about some of our goals and expectations. The first 6 really just touch on, as a Christian, what do we hope to take away from this course? I really hope that in our study of math that you are able to see a little bit how math works in God's creation, how God used it to create, how He maintains that, and through that we see just the power that math does hold. It helps us understand what God has done. In number 4 there, we also realize that there are some limitations, that maybe we don't fully understand what's going on, or we're not capable of understanding it, or that people might misuse math. So I hope that we can talk about that as well. And then in step 5 there, that hopefully we can use math to be God's servants, that we can take care of His creation through this, and that we just have more tools to do that. And hopefully if you understand steps 1 through 5, step 6 should be easy, that you're able to kind of explain some of that. So hopefully we'll be able to do some activities throughout the year that maybe get at some of those things. The rest of the goals and expectations really just relate to what we're going to be doing in class. So number 7 there, it's one of the more important ones. Let's just show respect. You can show respect to whatever teachers might be in our classroom. For sure to your classmates, you'll be working a lot with them. Also the classroom, let's take care of it. So don't leave trash laying around on the floor. Push chairs in, make sure things are kind of put back together when you guys leave the class. All those things are important. And so, yeah, let's really just focus on getting to know each other, having a good time, and working well together. I hope that you as an individual work to the best of your abilities. You are all very gifted, and I'll get to know you as class goes on. But let's make sure we're giving our best. Let's come to class prepared, use our class time wisely, and ask for help when it's needed. I want to talk about that last part just a little bit here. Math can be tricky. Whenever you have things that come up that don't make sense, it's always best to ask for help right away. I understand that sometimes we might be nervous about asking for that help, or maybe we're not even sure what to ask, but it's just always best to get that question out right away, even if it's I don't know what to ask, but things are not making sense, please help. I want to be there to help you guys. Find me when it's convenient for you. So I'm usually around before or after school. You can stop by right after class if you want to just quick touch base, set up a time to meet. I'll meet during lunch if our study halls match up. I'm pretty open to any of those things, but just make sure that you are asking for help. Extra credit's generally not something that's offered, so the sooner we get things figured out, the better we're all going to feel. I just want to encourage you to come and ask for help. Okay, what makes up our class? Some of you might look at this and say, oh, how am I going to earn a grade? I'm just going to more look at this as, what are some of the things that I use just to know where you are at in your understanding of what we're covering here. So first, something I call classwork. You could also call this maybe homework. If you're doing assignments from a book or a worksheet, and it's something that you're doing outside of the classroom, a lot of times I might collect it. I might look at things in a variety of ways. I might just, while you're looking things over in class, I'll take a glance at it and give you some sort of a grade for effort. I might collect it and actually just do a little bit more glancing at what specifically you put down on paper, but maybe still grade for effort. Or I might actually collect it and grade it like I would a test or a quiz, especially if it's something that's related to things that were covered directly in our class discussion. One thing I do ask is that you try very hard to do all of your assignments in pencil, and whatever corrections you do those in pen. And let's try to stay nice and organized. I do think for a lot of what we're doing, really try to put one assignment on each piece of paper. So you should have a lot of loose leaf paper. That will be very helpful. Other times we might be doing more of a flipped classroom sort of unit, where you are actually watching a video outside of class, and then we're working together on some problems in class. And so, yeah, I'll still take a glance at what you're doing. There's a variety of ways that I can do that, and as we get into class, you'll see, I'll kind of show you what I can see on Moodle and through Edpuzzle and things like that. These are minor points that you're earning for something like this, but it's very important that you take the assignment seriously so that you know exactly what we're going to be talking about in class the next day. Sometimes those videos will just cover the basics, and we're going to expand on that in class. So you really want to have the building blocks down, or if they don't make sense, that you're ready to ask some questions on it as you come back. We're going to miss class every now and then. I realize that. The best thing to do is to just plan ahead. If it's some sort of vacation or you're going to miss class due to another field trip, talk to me ahead of time. If it's unplanned, if you're sick, generally you have the same number of days that you were gone to get caught up. Generally speaking, the faster you get caught up, the better. So just communicate with me if there's something special going on. But in general, you really want to get caught up as soon as possible. Then the last thing here, I did something else that might show up in my grade book. I might call it a classwork check instead. Let's just say that an assignment just didn't seem to work out right. I still might want to have record of what you did, but I might just label it as a classwork check instead, and that's not going to affect your grade. So nothing majorly new there. Okay, group work. For me, group work is very important in class. There's going to be a lot of times where I will have groups organized, ask you to work together. We talked in the class expectations about respecting each other, and this is where that really comes into play. You need to respect what each group member brings to the group that you're in, and you need to be looking out for those people. So I do hope that you take that seriously. I really enjoy this part of class where I can walk around and just offer help to whatever we might be working on. Part of that means you need to be willing to ask questions, because sometimes I might push you a little bit in some of those group assignments. But if you're working together, if you're actively trying to be engaged and trying to figure things out, I really enjoy this part of class. One thing, again, I want to stress right around here, I think it's easy sometimes if you're just doing something in class, you don't always write things down as well as you could. I do want your written work in this sort of situation to be like a homework assignment. Homework's going to be very important. You're going to be looking back at it, hopefully, as you prepare for different assessments. And you might even consider it part of your notes. You might be jotting down some reminders in the margins. So do a good job of keeping this sort of work organized as well. Concept check. Sometimes I might just kind of give like a pop quiz, but I call it a concept check because I just want to see what you know. And so this does not count in your final grade, but it's something that I keep record of. And this is just kind of a nice change. Instead of a quiz that maybe you know about ahead of time, I might just pass something out, end of class, beginning of class, say, hey guys, just show me what you know, and I'm going to grade it like a quiz. It just won't count in your grade book. And that does lead us to different types of assessments. Generally, each semester will have 5 or 6 units, and I typically will have a test or perhaps a project towards the end of each unit. Throughout the unit, I might give a quiz, and generally what I do is a quiz is just a third of what a test is worth. So in your grade book, you'll probably see everything out of 100 points for assessments, but for a test, I make it worth 3 times as much. A couple things that you should be aware of. Let's say that you bomb a quiz early on, but you figure it out by the end of the unit. I will take that unit test score, that higher score, and often I will re-enter your quiz scores, almost always using the average of the two, but sometimes I might even just give you your full test score in that quiz score grade as well. So if let's say you got a C on a quiz and you got an A on the test, almost always I would put a B in the end for your quiz, but I might even raise that all the way up to an A because you figured it out at the end of our unit. Now let's say that your things are not quite making sense early in the year, and then all of a sudden you start figuring things out, and you're interested in doing some sort of a retest at some point. I get that. I'm very open to that. What you want to do is just make sure you're doing well in items 1 through 4, that you're doing all of your classwork. You're trying hard on group work, your concept checks. Even if the scores aren't great, you're trying to learn from them. If I see that, I would be willing to do some sort of a retest. There's a process that you go through. I generally have a form that I have you fill out. It's going to require you to do some review and to meet with me once or twice. But do realize that that original test score does not have to be your final test score if you're willing to keep working at it. Absences again will happen. If you're absent on a Tuesday of a test, you should plan on taking that test in your study hall the next day you have that study hall. That's kind of my expectation. If that's not going to work, it's your responsibility to talk to me ahead of time before school starts the next day. So shoot me an email, stop by school, stop by my classroom, but don't show up to your study hall and say, oh, I can't take it. You have to work that out with me ahead of time. I also do keep all tests in my classroom. I do generally pass those back out at some point for exam review, but I tend to hold on to all of my tests. Okay, last thing here, just how our final grade's determined for the term, which means no exam quite yet, but just what we're doing in class. All of the classwork is 20% of your grade. I don't do anything in the grade book. I'll put something in the grade book for class work checks and concept checks, but it doesn't really go towards your grade, just a record for me. Your assessments are the big thing, and I know that number might be a little scary for some of you, and we can certainly talk about that in class. But in general, this works out just fine. And do remember that I do some things with bumping quiz scores up, potentially offering retests and things of that nature. So in general, this does work out fine. The grading scale is for the entire school, nothing that I come up with there, and then same thing for semester grades. The thing that goes in your final transcript, I suppose, your term grade is 80% and the final exam is 20%. So that is a quick run through of the syllabus. I'll jot down questions you might have. Hopefully maybe you already put some questions down within the video, and we will definitely have some time to talk about this in our next class period.